Chapter 4. Annoying Predicament of Pauline Stoker. I must say I was pretty well at Twitter. It was about as juicy a biff as I had had for years. To have encountered this segment of the dead past in London would have been bad enough. Running into the gang down here like this, with the prospect of a lengthy luncheon party ahead, was a dash sight worse. I removed the lid with as much courtly grace as I could muster up, but the face had coloured with embarrassment, and I was more or less gasping for air. Chuffy was being the genial host. Hello, hello, hello. Here you all are. How are you, Mr. Stoker? How are you, Sir Roderick? Hello, Dwight. Good morning, Miss Stoker. May I introduce my friend, Bertie Wooster? Mr. Stoker, my friend Bertie Wooster. Dwight, my friend Bertie Wooster. Miss Stoker, my friend Bertie Wooster. Sir Roderick Glossop, my friend Bertie... Oh, but you already know each other, don't you? I was still under the ether. You will agree that all this was enough to rattle any chap. I surveyed the mob. Old Stoker was glaring at me. Old Glossop was glaring at me. Young Dwight was staring at me. Only Pauline appeared to find no awkwardness in the situation. She was as cool as an oyster on the half-shell, and as chirpy as a spring breeze. We might have been meeting by appointment. Where Bertram could only find a tentative pip-pip, she bounded forward, full of speech, and grabbed the old hand warmly. Well, 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 old Colonel Wooster in person. Fancy finding you here, Bertie. I called you up in London, but they told me you had left. Yes, I came down here. I see you did, you little blob of sunshine. Well, sir, this has certainly made my day. You're looking fine, Bertie. Don't you think he's looking lovely, father? Old Stoker appeared reluctant to set himself up as judge of male beauty. He made a noise like a pig swallowing half a cabbage, but refused to commit himself further. Dwight, a solemn child, was drinking me in silence. Sir Roderick, who had turned purple, was now fading away to a lighter shade, but still looked as if his finer feelings had sustained a considerable wallop. At this moment, however, the Dowager Lady Chuffnell came out. She was one of those powerful women who looked like female masters of hounds, and she handled the mob scene with quiet efficiency. Before I knew where I was, the whole gang had gone indoors, and I was alone with Chuffy. He was staring at me in an odd manner, and doing a bit of lower lip biting. I didn't know you knew these people, Bertie. I met them in New York. You saw something of Miss Stoker there? Oh, a little. Only a little? Quite a little. I thought her manner seemed rather warm. Oh, no, about normal. I should have imagined you were great friends. Oh, no. Just fairly pally. She goes on like that with everyone. She does? Oh, yes, big-hearted, you see. She has got a delightful, impulsive, generous, spontaneous, genuine nature, hasn't she? Oh, absolutely. Beautiful girl, Bertie? Oh, very. And charming. Most. In fact, attractive. Oh, yeah, quite. I saw a good deal of her in London. Yes? We went to the zoo and Madame Tussauds together. I see. And what does she seem to feel about this buying the house binge? Well, she seems all for it. Tell me, laddie, I said, anxious to get off the current subject. How do the prospects look? He knitted the Chuffnell brow. Well, sometimes good, sometimes not. I see. Uncertain. I understand. This Stoker chap makes me nervous. He's friendly enough as a general rule, but I can't help feeling that at any moment he may fly off the handle and scratch the entire fixture. You can't tell me if there are any special subjects to avoid when talking to him, can you? Special subjects? Well, you know how it is with a stranger. You say it's a fine day, and he goes all white and tense because you've reminded him that it was on a fine day that his wife eloped with the chauffeur. I considered. Well, if I were you, I said, I wouldn't harp too much on the topic of B. Wooster. I mean, if you were thinking of singing my praises, I wasn't. Well, don't. He doesn't like me. Well, why not? Just one of these unreasonable antipathies. And I was thinking, old man, if it's all the same for you, it might be better if I didn't join the throng at the luncheon table. You can tell your aunt I've got a headache." "Well, the sight of you is going to infuriate him. What makes him bar you so much?" "I don't know." "Well, I'm glad you told me. You'd better sneak off." "I will. And I suppose I'll be joining the others." He went indoors, and I started to take a turn or two up and down the gravel. I was glad to be alone. I wished to muse upon this matter of his attitude towards Pauline Stoker. "I wonder if you would mind just going back a bit and running the mental eye over that part of our conversation which had to do with girl? Anything strike you about it? No? Ah, well, to get the full significance, of course, you ought to have been there and observed him. I am a man who can read faces, and Chuffy's had seemed to me highly suggestive. Not only had its expression, as he spoke of Pauline, be that of a stuffed frog with a touch of a soul's awakening about it, but it had also turned a fairly deepish crimson in colour. The tip of a nose had wiggled, and there had been embarrassment in the manner. The result being that I had become fairly convinced that the old schoolmate had cocked it properly. Quick work, of course, seeing that he had only known the adored object a few days. But, well, Chuffy is like that. A man of impulse and hot-blooded impetuosity. You find the girl, and he does the rest. Well, if it was so, it was all right with me. Nothing of a dog in the manger about Bertram. As far as I was concerned, Pauline Stoker could hitch up with anyone she liked, and she would draw a hearty "go for it" from the discarded suitor. You know how it is on quiet reflection in these affairs. For a time, the broken heart, and then suddenly the healing conviction that one is jolly well out of it. I could see that Pauline was one of the most beautiful girls I had ever met, but of the ancient fire which had caused me to bung my heart at her feet that night at the plaza, there remained not a trace. Analysing this, if analysing is a word I want, I came to the conclusion that this changed outlook was due to the fact that she was so dashed dynamic. Unquestionably an eyeful, Pauline Stoker had the grave defect of being one of those girls who want you to come and swim a mile before breakfast and rout you out when you are trying to snatch a wink of sleep after lunch for a merry 5 sets of tennis. And now that the scales had fallen from my eyes, I could see that what I required for the role of Mrs. Bertram Wooster was something rather more on the lines of Janet Gaynor. But in Chuffy's case these objections fell to the ground. He, you see, is very much on the dynamic side himself. He rides, swims, shoots, chivies foxes with loud cries, and generally bustles about. He and this P. Stoker would make the perfect pair, and I felt that if there was anything I could do to push the thing along, it should be done unstintedly. So when at this point I saw Pauline coming out of the house and bearing down on me, obviously with a view to exchanging notes and picking up the old friends and what-not, I did not leg it, but greeted her with a bright "what ho!" and allowed her to steer me into the shelter of the path that led through the rhododendron shrubbery. All of which goes to show what lengths a Wooster will proceed when it is a question of helping a pal, because the last thing I really wanted was to be closeted with this girl. The first shock of meeting her was over, but I was still feeling far from yeasty at the prospect of a heart-to-heart talk. As our relations had been severed by post, and the last time we had foregathered we had been an engaged couple, I wasn't quite sure what was the correct note to strike. However, the thought that I might be able to put in a word for old Chuffy nerved me to the ordeal, and we parked ourselves on a rustic bench and got down to the agenda. "How perfectly extraordinary finding you here, Bertie," she began. "What are you doing in these parts?" "I am temporarily in retirement," I replied, pleased to find the conversational exchanges opening up on what I might call an unemotional note. "I needed a place where I could play the banjolele in solitude, and I took this cottage." "What cottage?" "I've got a cottage down by the harbour." "Oh, you must have been surprised to see us." "I was." "More surprised than pleased, eh?" "Well, of course, old thing, I'm always delighted to meet you. But when it comes to your father and old Glossop..." He's not one of your greatest admirers, is he? By the way, Bertie, do you keep cats in your bedroom? I stiffened a little. There have been cats in my bedroom, but the incident to which you allude is one that is susceptible of a ready... All right, never mind. Take it as read. But you ought to have seen Father's face when he heard about it. Talking of Father's face, I should get a big laugh if I saw it now. I could not follow this. Goodness knows I'm as fond of a chuckle as the next man, but J. Washburn Stoker's face had never made me so much as smile. He was a cove who always reminded me of a pirate of the Spanish Main, a massive blighter, and piercing-eyed to boot. So far from laughing at the sight of him, I had never yet failed to feel absolutely spineless in his presence. If he suddenly came round the corner, I mean, and found us with our heads together like this, he's convinced that I'm still pining for you. You don't mean that. I do, honestly. But, dash it, it's true, I tell you. He looks on himself as a stern Victorian father who has parted the young lovers and has got to exercise ceaseless vigilance to keep them from getting together again, little knowing that you never had a happier moment in your life than when you got my letter. No, I say. Bertie, be honest. You know you were delighted. Well, I wouldn't say that. You don't have to. Mother knows. No, dash it, really. I wish you wouldn't talk like that. I always esteemed you most highly. You did what? Where do you pick up these expressions? Well, I suppose from Jeeves mostly. My late man. He had a fine vocabulary. When you say late, do you mean he's dead? Or just unpunctual? He's left me. He didn't like me playing the banjolele. Words passed, and he is now with Chuffy. Chuffy? Lord Chuffnell. Oh. There was a pause. She sat listening for a moment to a couple of birds who were having an argument in a nearby tree. Have you known Lord Chuffnell long? She asked. Oh, rather. You were great friends? Bosom is the mot just. Good. I hoped you were. I wanted to talk to you about him. I can confide in you, can't I, Bertie? Well, of course. I knew I could. That's the comfort of having been engaged to a man. When you break it off, you feel such a sister. I don't regard you as a blister at all, I said warmly. You had a perfect right... Not blister. Sister. Oh, sister. Oh, you mean you look on me as a brother? Yes, as a brother. How quick you are. And I want you to be very brotherly now. Tell me about Marmaduke. I don't think I know him. Lord Chuffnell, idiot. Is his name Marmaduke? Well, well. How true it is that one doesn't know how the other half of the world lives, what? Marmaduke, I said, laughing heartily. I remember he was always evasive and secretive about it at school. She seemed annoyed. It's a beautiful name. I shot one of my swift, keen glances at her. This, I felt, must mean something. Nobody would say Marmaduke was a beautiful name wantonly and without good reason. And, sure enough, the eyes were gleaming and the epidermis a pretty pink. Hello, I said. Hello, hello, hello. Hello? Her demeanour was defiant. All right, she said. Less of the Sherlock stuff. I'm not trying to hide anything. I was just going to tell you. You love this. Excuse me, this Marmaduke. I'm crazy about him. Good. Well, if what you say... Don't you worship the way his hair fluffs up behind? I have better things to do than staring at the back of Chuffy's head. But, as I was about to remark, if what you say is really so, be prepared for tidings of great joy. I'm a pretty close observer, and a certain bulbous look in the old boy's eyes when a recent conversation happened to turn in your direction has convinced me that he is deeply enamoured of you. She wiggled her shoulder impatiently, and in a rather peevish manner hoofed a passing earwig with a shapely foot. I know that, you chump.
Do you think a girl can't tell?
I was frankly nonplussed. Well, if he loves you and you love him, I fail to comprehend what you are beefing about.
Why can't you understand? He's obviously dippy about me, but not a yip from him.
Will he not speak?
Not a syllable.
Well, why don't he? Surely you realise that there is a certain decency in these matters, a certain decorum? Naturally he wouldn't say anything yet. Dash it, give the man a chance. He's only known you 5 days.
I sometimes feel that he was a king in Babylon when I was a Christian slave.
Well, what makes you think that?
I just do.
Well, you know best, of course. Very doubtful, I should have said myself. And anyway, what do you want me to do about it?
Well, you're a friend of his. You could give him a hint. You could tell him that there's no need for cold feet.
It's not cold feet. It's delicacy. As I just explained, we men have our code in these matters. We may fall in love pretty nippily, but after that we consider it decorous to backpedal a while. We are the parfait gentle knights, and we feel that it ill beseems us to make a beeline for a girl like a man charging to a railway restaurant for a bowl of soup.
What utter nonsense! You asked me to marry you after you had known me 2 weeks.
Well, but there you were dealing with one of the wild Woosters.
Well, I can't see...
Yes, I said. Proceed, you have our ear. But she was looking past me at something to the southeast, and, turning, I perceived that we were no longer alone. There, standing in an attitude of respectful courtliness, with the sunshine playing upon his finely chiselled features, was Jeeves.